Fahrenheit. She was Fahrenheit. I was I was fair and high. I don't know. It's
and
like
then she feared my height, but I wasn't gonna slight it up. Fuck that bitch. Slip that bitch. Cut that bitch. Bit cut me off. Offset off mic. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Who are you? Who are me? We D D D E. Us three on the mic to be. I'm Stanley P. John B. And my boy Andrew Ambrose Lee.
high powered. That's three.
Was this
Yo, let's
on?
just
Was this on the XL like cipher?
Soul burger.
There's one
the
less
soul
X than
burger.
the.
uh
Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Why don't you come over and talk about it?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to I've been meaning to listen to that, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use it as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
I'm Stanley Philippe.
And I'm John Butts.
And yeah, like this is just the three of us. We can make it if we try. Anyways, this is just the three of us today. This is very exciting. Honestly, very refreshing. I don't think we've done this in a while too. So I feel like a little more relaxed. My blood pressure's a little lower this time around. Yeah, like let's talk about. We're here today to talk about Soul Burger by Absol. One of John's guys. Yeah, let's talk about it. Like, John, what's your relationship to Absol, the rapper?
So I kind of explained my whole introduction to TDE on the Blue Lips episode where I was doing this like apprenticeship / internship at this theater, and one of my roommates was like, "Oh, you like Schoolboy Q? You got to check out the whole roster." And kind of at that time, I had heard a little bit about Absol. He was on that royalty mixtape by Childish Gambino. And I was like, this guy's interesting and he's affiliated, so let me check him out. And this was Control System era. So, you know, being a 22-year-old listening to Control System and kind of getting his political perspective at that time was like, whoa, he's burning a $20 bill and saying like he sees Hitler in the Twin Towers, like it's all a thing, like it's all a conspiracy, this is wild. So I don't know, that was just a really cutting edge album. And ever since then, to me, what has made him captivating is a little different than what makes a Kendrick or a Schoolboy, a J-Rock appealing, because they all have their sort of niches. To him, he maintained this sort of relatability that I don't necessarily find in Kendrick or the other guys, because he speaks a lot about his personal plight with being an artist in general, just writ large, what it means to do it. And being a person who is creative, we are always constantly putting ourselves under a microscope and thinking about our process. What should we do next? This worked, this didn't work. And those are kind of teachings that really, really resonated with me as I started to go backwards in his catalog, you know, listening to Long Term 2 and then Long Term Mentality. You know, I moved to New York City, and he was like the soundtrack to my first year in New York when I lived there. So, wow. and that was big in itself because I chose not to like do auditions and stuff and just wanted to live and adjust to being in the city. So, yeah, lots of memories of me just walking through avenues and streets in the city, bumping Absol and House Party 5, want to live larger than life, and all that. So I really hold him up there in this sort of, I don't know, post blog era, but uh, into streaming, but not quite like modern. He kind of straddles a little bit, like your Jay Z's and Nas and Kanye's. He's like after that, but not quite. Your Denzel Curry's and your Jids. He's in between, and I really appreciate what he brings to the table. And yeah, that's enough for now. We'll get into more, but
No.
yeah, love Absol.
Yeah. What would you say are like kind of the things you took away as like the lessons you were talking about as a creative that you took from him that you applied to yourself?
I don't even know if it's something that I applied. It's more so the acknowledgement that it's not a linear thing, nor is it a glamorous thing. And Absol would talk about writing his rhymes and like being on TDE, but then also talking about his perception, like being in that space, like, oh, these guys don't necessarily look at me as number one, or I feel, he's like, I feel like the underdog in my environment. And he's like, I'm not from Compton, I'm from Carson, California. That's not, it's like kind of suburbia, quote unquote. And being able to, and I've said this a lot on this pod too, being able to be an artist and be fallible and it not be pristine, and being able to have a sort of imposter syndrome about it, but also feeling very charged and energized by it. Um, so I think that's the biggest thing. Like I'm the oldest brother, so I've never had, outside of like older cousins, and I don't like have that relationship that's like guiding you through the artist's journey at all. And not that everything that Absol raps about is the artist's journey. I think that's just a core aspect of what he talks about. And it's present on Soulburger. And uh, it's very tangible in a way that it feels almost like easy listening, even though he's very wordy and he's kind of got that wordsmith and intelligent. Hip hop is an intelligent movement, and he wants you to think deeper, but it feels a little bit more listenable than some of his contemporaries too, even though they can be complex listens. There's a weird sort of dichotomy there with his work for me, worth unpacking, but also easy listening.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Because like I think you could listen to this and not know about Dough Burger at all. You not know about any of the his history of like his friends passing away and all that stuff, and where it just sounds good. I think it just sounds good also. But what about you, Stanley? Where are you with Absol Solo?
Ha, okay, so I guess these are my confessions. So confession time. I guess I branded myself as like a real kind of hip hop head, but in actuality, from like 95 to 2015, I was just eating, breathing, and dissecting all of this rap music. And then after 2015, I kind of like knew what I like and just stuck with the artist that I liked, and I would kind of sniff here or maybe sample there. So Absol, it
Mm,
was always like for me it was Kendrick, and then Schoolboy Q caught my attention. I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy, like, let me explore it. And then whenever Absol popped up on something, and then the black hippie stuff, you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I acknowledge J Rock, I acknowledge Soul, but I don't really consume them like that. So I've never really listened to a full Absol. This is so embarrassing. A full Absol project prior to this, but listening to this, I could imagine him first like Nipsey. It feels like there's a lot of Nipsey Hussle in Absol. I mean, he has a lot of references, but it just feels like they're from the same cloth. Like they just have that same type of understanding of the art form of rap, but also the culture of hip hop and how to like weave both and make it digestible. And I think for me, Absol, I was thinking about basketball. I'm like, man, like you have
how
like
was your favorite
Mike,
sport?
was that?
How it's your favorite sport?
Yeah, my
Now,
favorite
basketball
sport.
is my favorite sport. I like the way I
Yes.
dribble around the court. Yeah.
Hey. Yes. Very good.
Sorry.
Very good reference. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so for me, like Michael Jordan, although he played for Chicago, like he's from New York, right? So for me, he's like the epitome of like East Coast rap because he's like an East Coast baller, a bit more of a grinder, will fuck you up if need be. And then Magic Johnson, although he's from Michigan, he's for me West Coast rap, very like smooth, almost like quick-witted, like fun, and it's all about the show. And for me, Absol is Kobe Bryant. And although Kobe played for the Lakers, he has this like Michael Jordan East Coast rap grind mentality. And it's almost like Kobe never truly believed that he was the best. It's like he always had this need to prove that he was the best, even when everyone said, like, hey Kobe, we know it, like you're the greatest. But he didn't believe that. And I think Absol has some of that, like you said, John, that underdog mentality, even in moments where everyone knows he's like the greatest of his crew. It was still kind of like, no, I'm gonna battle everyone because fuck y'all. Like I'm the guy. So I didn't really have a history with Absol, but just this small glimpse, I feel like I understand him really well. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think he has the, which is funny because like Ty Dolla Sign is on this album, but like he has the Ty Dolla Sign syndrome of like, oh my God, every time, like whenever Absol shows up on a song, you know it's going to be a good song, or you know the other artist is going to bring it, or like you know that Absol is going to like tie it all together in a really awesome way. Um, but yeah, I it was always on the periphery. I really love all the black hippie songs they did together. I just like think it's such a shame they never got to like make a project together.
The
Because like all
best
the
rap group that never made an
I
album.
know it's ridiculous, and they don't even have a project. But I also, yeah, just like I love his Black Hippie features. I love his features on, the Schoolboy Q, Absol collaborations. I love his appearance on the Danny Brown album. Atrocity, like really though, I really know, like that
Yeah,
song.
really. No, that song was like, who's got the best verse?
Yeah. By the way, who do you think has the best version? I think it might be Earl.
Yeah,
Like,
I think the consensus is out on Earl.
yeah,
Earl
yeah.
is he really
It's obscene.
really down.
It's wild. But yeah, like that verse is cool, but he was never my guy. I never listened to like Stanley. I never listened to a full Absol project until today, until yesterday, and then today also. Um, yeah, and then my struggle of him was like, is he like lyrical spiritual miracle guy, like where he could like he has bars but he's not saying anything very deep or like interesting, or like it's just like it's cool, he sounds good, it's like but he keeps talking about his third eye all the time. And like, please stop talking about your third eye. I don't want to hear it. Just like this kind of like fake deep. Like, I think J. Cole has a similar problem, not the exact same problem, but a similar problem of like, oh, he's got bars, he can rap, but like he's put the 10,000 hours in, but like it's very straightforward. It's very much like what you get, what you see is what you get. Um, where I think so coming into this and knowing a little bit of the history of like, oh, it's about his best friend who passed away. He was killed in a home invasion. I also like, I do like a lot of the songs on Herbert. I didn't listen to all of it, but like I liked a lot of the songs on Herbert. I always like start an Absol project and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I never finish it. Like I just like, he's rapping so good on like the first song of all his projects. I'm like, this is unlike anything else. And then he just like, and it's a little like, it's very heady. I'm like, it feels both like I'm stupid, but also like this isn't deep at the same time. There's a level, there's kind of both. So I was trying to figure out where he is on that scale. And what I realized, like, oh, he's saying a lot. He's saying a lot of if it's not like, profound all the time, it's like certainly based in a lived experience. It's based in like, Oh, this man has been through some shit. Like this man has like suffered a lot. He's like clearly has like a tortured mind. He's like, struggles with insecurity, struggles with like that mix of insecurity and bravado. He's like dealt with suicidal thoughts. He's attempted suicide at one point in 2022. And just like dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt, like trying to bring together all these ideas from like spirituality and like the civil rights movement all together. It's really good stuff. But yeah, let's talk about this album itself. What are your thoughts on it, John?
So, to me, Soul Burger is a little bit of a departure from that headiness that you were describing. This is him trying to make his music a little bit more accessible, make it a little bit more palatable, not overthinking the process as well. I think Absol comes from a place where he's very conceptual and wants to ensure that what he's writing is impactful and has multi layers. But I think the approach to this album was to go in and make music without overthinking the process, but also taking the loss of his best friend Doughburger and using a little bit of his perspective and his energy to create the songs, aka Soul Burger, creating this new moniker. And to me, Soul Burger is as, I don't know if it's as mainstream as Absol can get, because I think Herbert was also a good attempt, but there's something about him that doesn't really allow him to make something that is just vanilla, if that makes sense. He's got to add something to it, or he's got to do a D&D or a I, Myself, and Me, where it's like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got Dochi on the song. Like, what are you didn't try to like make it like that Lisa song, like that, like that K-pop song she just did,
Yeah, I mean, all to me, all that I can hear all that maybe on the radio, out of all of these songs, and maybe Don Julio 70, but I just don't think that Absol makes mainstream music, and I don't think that Soul Burger is a mainstream project, even though he says the biggest lie I ever told is that it ain't about the money. It's like he wants to crack it. One of my favorite things about his process has been his long-term series. The first two long-terms were mixtapes before he released Long-Term Mentality, which was his first iTunes release. But the next iteration of the long-term series is supposed to be Long-Term 3, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And he keeps saying, I'm not making Long-Term 3 until I can speak to the experience of being rich as like Kendrick is, or rich as, maybe not as rich as Jay-Z is, but kind of, past this sort of scrappy rapper phase. And I don't think I care if Long-Term 3 happens, or if he makes that sort of financial success, because I appreciate a Soul Burger. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great project for me that maybe is not gonna crack your top 100 USA Spotify playlist, but I will return to this for the rest of my life because I appreciate what's going on here. So yeah, I really enjoy Soul Burger for what it is. I definitely think it has its highs and its lows, which we'll get into. But yeah, I'm a fan.
I find it really interesting, like that. Like, Kendrick is at the Super Bowl and he's like dominated, music for a long time. And Kendrick acknowledges that like he wanted to rap like Ab Soul. And it's just such a wild, like what you've been describing there, John. It's like it's wild to think like, Absol knew how talented he was. And he's like, yeah, I had this process where I'm gonna become rich and famous because I have it. Like he has it. And God, I'm a bit of a J. Cole hater Okay, and I think where I why I hate on J. Cole is why I like Absol, is because they both have obviously lyrically they're both fire, and they both have this ability to make meaningful rap, that could be digested by those who are maybe less meaningful, those who don't really look for meaning. But for me, J. Cole is boring. Like I feel like he's a boring rapper. He's just like so good, but it's kind of like, Whereas Absol is like so good and it's like fun. And maybe that documentary has really skewed my perception of everything, but it just seemed like they were just like fucking around and they had that ball down Julio and they're just like, yo,
You're like, the
let's go make
song's
a
right
track.
here.
It's just yeah, it's like it's right there. Whereas J. Cole is kind of like, oh, well, whatever. Will you be my best friend? No, I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on J. Cole, but but it's just there's like a difference in how this is being digested by me at least, which makes me think like, how come Absol isn't in the top three? Like, why was J. Cole in a top three?
Yeah, I also like I just like a quick theme. It's just like he's like a rapper's rapper. He talks about that all the time. And what that just Kendrick says he studied Absol's pen, and then Kendrick like in his Super Bowl pre-game interview thing, he says he listens to Daylight a lot, and Daylight and Absol have a lot of parallels too, as like kind of these battle rappy kind of people. Um, yeah, and then it's just like um I think this is like this album is like four rappers, like four actual like artists who like, or just like hip hop rappers, hip hop artists more so than like me, like it's just, he's like broadcasting the conversation at a wavelength that, um, hip hop artists can hear. And also I am eavesdropping on this conversation and I might get a thing or a nugget of wisdom here and there, but it's like for like his people. And it's like his people is different from Kendrick's people. Like Kendrick is trying to talk to a bigger worldwide experience, the black experience, but a worldwide experience, also a human experience. And then Absol is talking to like the people in Carson, the
Yeah,
people
this
he's
is
like
like the
hanging around with.
neighborhood, the
Yeah,
corner
and
store folk.
also just artists like you, like John, like just like people who get it and people who I watched the Screwface Gene like reaction to this, and he's just like he was catching references that I didn't get. Like he was catching like the In Living Color references and just like all these like kind of black culture touch points that I just like wasn't privy to, and like um yeah, I just think that's like so awesome. Yeah.
And like the ability to do that, but also like you said, it's listenable without having all of that history associated with, because yeah, what does he say? Know your roots and who you're rooting for. Like he is very much so a historian, and he weaves it all through this album seamlessly, from Squeeze First being an homage to Jay-Z's Squeeze. I don't know if it's Squeeze First, but it's on the Dynasty. From Bucko Jr. to being a Lil Wayne track to 9 Mile, like it's very much so for his people. It's like you said, it's for artists, it's for hip hop. Yeah, man, and when you have that level of mastery, it's almost, I guess, can become a limitation, so to speak, because how would what does a person need to do to step outside of themselves, or is it the right thing for Absol to not be the historian all the time? Or I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, nor do I know if I really want that. If Because what would Absol bring to the masses that Kendrick hasn't? And not to say that his voice is not worth it, but I wonder what sort of sway he
Yeah,
would
or he's not
have.
like deserving or anything like that. It's like,
Yeah,
he because like there was like the rumors like is he gonna be at the Super Bowl? But like I think
right.
the right thing was him to do the pop out and go survival. I think that was good. I think that was the right amount. I think that's the level of success he wants. That's the level of just like, yeah, Kendrick is like, I helped build this. And it's just like, I think there's like also just the fact that like like who the hell listened to Herbert? Who the hell listened to Blake? And like, oh, I guess Lupe, Jid, Ty Dolla Sign, Vince Staples were listening to it. I guess they were. Yeah. So
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
kind of like key people in the hip hop right now.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he just didn't get industry planted. Like he's just not a plant. Like Doechii is obviously we talked about Doechii and how great she is, but she also benefited from just massive exposure and then having that exposure and then it just kind of, lit a match in the zeitgeist. But Absol, like what else do you want? He's got everything you want in like a commercial rapper. Like he has great rhymes. He's got awesome references to like past amazing rappers. He's got a crew. He's linked to the right label in TDE. Like he's got it all. It's just that for some reason, and maybe it's Kendrick. Like maybe the fact that with TDE, like it's like, well, Kendrick was such a vehicle that had the original cosign of Dre, right? It's like a lot of these new rappers need cosigns that are big, but also kind of getting out of the way, right? Like a young Ye had like a J that was like, okay, I'm about to retire for the first time, so let me just like make some room. And then, this guy has, or Kendrick has that Dr. Dre, where Dre is like no longer dropping albums, but he's still Dre, and he has that beat stuff. And all of a sudden, he's saying like this kid from LA, he's the next one, and Dre did that for Eminem as well. But no one did it for Soul, like Kendrick. Uh, I guess because he didn't drop Black Hippie, like Kendrick didn't really do it properly for any of them to blow up to a level where they can compete with him.
Speaking of blowing up, I feel like if Absol did get to that sort of mainstream appeal, he'd start citing like government like defense contracts in his raps and like drone strikes. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
yes.
that's partly why I don't know if he's being suppressed or if it is like the true imposter syndrome that is a limitation to like cracking that next step. But there's also that sort of activist in him, no pun intended. Oh, look at me, Absol activist, pull up the lean. Anyway,
I love it.
but yeah, I wonder if that's part of it too, because he certainly does not appreciate America at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, again, not to speak ill of him or like he doesn't deserve success, like, because he clearly, like, he maybe didn't get industry planted, but like clearly Punch and Top and all those fellas like put him through the ringer of like the training to be great. Um, but I think like there's a quality of like maybe that wouldn't be good for him, to do for his mental health and for his wellness and stuff. And I think he's also, like he's doubted. He has some doubts, but I believe that's like true of everybody. I
Hmm.
imagine. So I don't think that's the reason he shouldn't be successful. I just think it's like, this album is a lot about him healing himself, of him just like grieving these multiple compounded losses. It's just I don't know his whole history, but apparently it's just been a thing that's been constantly recurring, of just like this close loved one passing away and then just like having to deal with the fallout of that and just being depressed or going through like at one point having like a conspiracy theory like rabbit hole phase too. And yeah, I guess just like another theme is just like, in terms of like Doe Burger, his friend, there's a theme of like combination of duality, and like, the combination of when someone dies, they can live on through the lives of their loved ones who are still alive. Um, and then like the combination of like the duality of like, the insecurity and bravado combining, like dumb and smart combining, an activist and like, a super slut combining, like all these things like kind of combining together. That's another theme I wrote down. So
Yeah, he
Hmm.
really does like to exploit that yin and yang in his music. And yeah, and he has been through a lot. I'd be remiss not to shout out Alori Joe, which it was his high school sweetheart that also tragically passed when right before Control System released, because she was like among the folks who were kind of being developed for TDE as well. She was one of their singers. And I also feel like we should mention what he went through when he was in middle school, the Steven Johnson syndrome, which was, it's a very rare syndrome where, and for any newcomers, I feel like I need to say this. Anybody who knows about Absol knows this, but it's this rare condition where you have like an internal and external fever. So when he was in middle school, like his whole body, he had to be hospitalized, and his whole, it was basically like he was been eaten from the outside. Like he had blisters and all sorts of stuff. It's why he wears the glasses. People look at him and think like, oh, he tried to do some Eazy-E stuff. It was like, no, this man is legally blind. Like Absol cannot see. So, you know, just kind of adding a new layer to the trauma that Andrew was talking about. I think that's really important to consider when you're listening to Absol's music, and considering that push and pull, the exploiting the dualities, but also how an imposter syndrome can manifest, or how a drug addiction could manifest, all compounds into this very wacky wordsmith that is Herbert Anthony Stevens. We also haven't gotten off all of the nicknames. Can I reel them off really quick? We got Absol, don't forget the dash, Mr. Absolutely, Solo, YMF, Young Mindfuck, Mayday, Black Lip Pastor, Black Lip Bastard, Soul Brother number 2, KRS2. He's got them all. There's lots of lore with this man.
Melee.
Mayday.
Yeah, Stanley, what did we talk to you about your thoughts on the themes though? Like,
No, I mean, I think we've kind of touched it. I think for me, one of the themes is just the TDE of it all. Like TDE, is it like the best rap label in
Might
terms
be.
of quality?
Yes.
Like the best rap label ever?
I mean, even Snoop said he was better than Death Row.
Yes, yeah. It's like Death Row, Rockefeller,
Dreamville, Cash Money.
Could argue
Cash-
that, but like
Cash Money.
I wouldn't. Like,
Dreamville,
you know,
no, not Dreamville at all. No.
some of those
Shout
guys
out to J. Cole.
Jid.
The guys.
Jid.
Yeah,
Jid's great.
Jid's great. He's great.
Jid
Yeah,
is
he's great.
fantastic. And then like the whole, I forget what their label is called, like Beast Coast, like the Joey Badass camp. You had Odd Future, Once Upon a Time,
Yeah.
Yeah, good music where
Wu
they just
Tang
like
Clan.
Yeah.
play overtime.
Wu-Tang for me
Right.
can't really count because it's almost like they win just by sheer volume.
Right.
But I don't know. But my whole point is like the TDE factory is so impeccable that they're able to do what you're supposed to do. They would be great sports management teams because they really
Yeah.
allow their artists to season, overcook, and then when they're really, really ready, they're there. But they also allow their artists to like kind of get a sniff of what's out there, and then realize their weaknesses, go back to the gym, work on that. You know, like
Yeah.
they have a really great process, and this just showcases the process.
I also think they're like building artists to last.
Yeah.
Good music, you know, all those artists are good. All those artists are good. No pun intended. All those artists are good, but like they're kind of like not nurtured in the way they could like survive after their initial like hot period. You know,
Yeah,
like
it felt more like an idea than a place to really blossom.
Well, good music borrowed from Rockefeller, where Rockefeller is just like, okay, yeah, you're sick. I'm gonna sign you, and it's up to you. You know, like there was no overcooking or there was no minor leagues when it came to good music or Rockefeller. That's why, like Rockefeller, you only have like Jay, and then Beanie Siegel had like a nice run, and he's obviously great, but no one really, again, like you talk about longevity, no one really kind of passed through that. And with TDE, it's like they're the opposite, where it's like we're going to invest in this one or two or whatever, and actually invest the time and work.
I feel like Shady had a same problem. Maybe you could
Yes.
argue that Aftermath with like Kendrick
Okay.
and 50 Cent and M, but that's only three artists, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
TDE is crank, like you've got your Kendricks, your SZAs, your Doechis, just like it's OP.
Yeah, yeah. And my only other theme is just like bars. Like, I mean, again, that documentary is so dope. John, thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that document because it was so cool to just see them. And I think that every artist should do this. Especially hip hop artists, because with hip hop, like there's so much wordplay that's involved with it, and there's a lot of like, hey, this magic feels like it's almost simplified to a dope beat and dope rhymes, but there's a lot of work that goes into the crafting these songs, and it's not by accident, right? Like there's a lot of it. I mean, some of it was accidental, but shout out to Don Julio, but some of it is like it's actually intentional. Like, hey, we're gonna do this way, that way. I'm gonna switch up the way I actually like work on my craft to produce a different thing. Like, there's a lot to it, and it's really, really cool to go behind the scenes and see that process, particularly with an artist that you don't have a history with. If you just like sit down, watch that, you're like, oh shit, let me turn on Soul Burger right away. You know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there's like, I would say there are like four O's to listening to Absol. There's like the, like there's like four or five of them. There's like, oh, battle rap, like kind of like the joy of like recognizing in the moment that's a sick bar. There's like,
Yeah.
oh, like kind of like just like right discovering it like the sixth or fifth listen, like, oh shit, that was like, or just like, oh, that bar I thought was cool is actually deeper than I thought it was. Like, oh, and then there's like, oh, as in like, sex. And then there's also like, and then there's
All right,
like,
what was that last? Oh, I didn't really catch that.
yeah,
Like what?
no, I'm not gonna. And then there's like,
Oh, I just came on your throat pillow.
yeah, there's that one. And then there's like, oh, there's a few of those. There's a few
Yeah.
like they can't all be winners. They can't all.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Frankenstein. Just like what's it called? Mayday, Mayday, Melee, Melee. And hard to tail like Sonic's little homie. Like,
I know. I'm like, go to the Nas route at least. Like, why you
Yeah.
gotta go to Sonic's little homie? It's like he's cringe, but he can be cringe, but he's not cringe in those cringe moments, if that makes any sense. Like
yeah,
it's like he
that
knows that it's cringed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think like there's also a level of like there's especially in 9 Mile. I think it's a great song, but like there are moments where he's just like, "Do you catch that, Peter and Paul?" Like
I love
but,
it. I
but
love
like
it.
there's a level of like, but at the same time, there's a level of like I wouldn't have gotten if he just didn't explain it like 2 seconds later. Like I think I would have, but I would have loved the discovery of just like he just like says it and just like lets it sit, and then you kind of like discover it instead of like him doing the work for me. The other, just like one more note, is just like theme is just like why me is the theme here of just like his suicide attempt and like he's alive, and then his friend Doughburger and Nipsey and Mac Miller and Lori, all these folks like passing away, and then why am I here? And I think he's like trying to reconcile, just like, okay, so you know, I'm descended from religious, pastors and apostles and all these people, and like the history of like Black culture mixed with spirituality. Um, okay, I'll try a little bit of that. I'll try to like not only preach, but also preach from experience of like the fact that like you survived a suicide attempt is like that's like hard. That's hard, like that's like
Right.
that's real. Like that's like and that's people want to hear people who are like depressed, people who are like going through hard things want to hear from people who actually been through it than someone who's just
Mhm.
like, read about it or just like, doesn't and there's benefit from like hearing from someone who doesn't know the exact experience but is like trying to understand, trying to help you. But like there's something to be said of like, Absol going through it, and then at the very first song, him going like, "My daughter Carson just said data for the first time," and that I got to live for that. I got that. That's a reason I'm still alive, and that's the reason I'm glad I'm still alive. And then, but also, I'm on this hamster wheel too. I'm still depressed. I still suffer. Um, in Herbert, he's talking about I got to be better. I got to be better. I got to be better. Like that idea is very important.
And have to measure up to the expectation that you set for yourself. I think I say this a lot on this podcast too, but these artists kind of just keep pushing their bars higher and higher. And then when you've maintained a level of relevance, the pressure to supersede yourself gets that much more. I think that's why we've seen Ye crash out so much a little bit, because he can't quite recapture that former light that he had, in his first 5 to 6 album run. And I feel for them, because there's label expectations, there's monetary expectations. Yeah, it's especially I don't want to get into highlights yet, but
You're talking about hamster wheel, like the idea of
yeah,
this thing that's like your source of self-expression, your source of monetary security, your source of joy is also the thing causing your misery, and is also the thing that's like a prison at the same time too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let's go through highlights and lowlights right after this quick break. Click. But hi everybody, we're back. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back. Let's talk about some highlight songs on Soul Burger by Absol. What do you got?
Who's gonna start?
Well, I guess 9 Mile, like 9 Mile is
Yeah.
it's a perfect introduction, and it puts me right in the mood to like, okay, we are doing this. And then like the samples, right? The Soul to Soul sample, that Mob Deep, like 8 Mile final, like I'm just so glad
Belly.
that it's just, yeah, it's just perfect. The bars are sick. I try to write a few of them, but like, am I an inmate? I got secrets I'm gonna die with. Am I the greatest? Or am I a victim or a villain with the moral compass? I think it's like that's him in a nutshell. Uh, it's just beautiful.
Soul to Soul. The sample alone is a double
Yes.
entendre.
Oh my God, yes. Duh.
Oh,
Come on, man.
Oh,
Like
shit.
soul. Oh man, Soul to Soul, like him to dough. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Come on, man. But also,
they should have sampled the
um,
cheeseburger song from VeggieTales to like make it a real, you know.
am I? What did he say? He also said,
The burger song by Skee-Lo. That could be fun.
"I'm the greatest. I leave the booth feeling like a fraud." It's like, man,
Yeah.
how could you say that on this song? Like this.
Yes.
This is a good exhibit to why you could call yourself the greatest, I think. But this song also evokes just waiting in the wings, kind of like that 8 Mile opener, where he's kind of behind like in the backstage area, and then it's time to like rap, but he doesn't choke. This is the end of the movie. So the story begins at the climax, I guess, if you're kind of harkening it back to 8 Mile. So I think that's also pretty cool. And just interpolating something that's not even a song. It's a component of a movie about a rapper who is the greatest and got this opportunity to portray his loose story. It's like, what are we doing? Nobody's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's dope about that too is at the end of the movie when he reaches his peak and everyone's just like, oh my God, like you gotta do this all the time. Like M goes back to work. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't like say, okay, now I'm gonna become the greatest rapper. He's like, oh, I'm going back to work. So it's great that Absol uses that too to kind of say like you say, it's almost like we're at the end here, and now let's go to work. And the rest of the album kind of plays out. It's fire.
Which I guess refutes my point earlier about like can he crack it? You know what I mean? If he's ready to do this work, then shoot, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I like, yeah, this song has some of the most cringe bars that I was talking about earlier, like Apothic Red, Mayday, Mayday, Melee, Melee, Heart to Tail.
See,
Yeah,
I'm
but
all
that's
about
the
that
best though.
Mayday. I'm all about that Mayday, because it's just like, if you've been listening to Abs you want to hear him say his monikers. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I get it. Oh, I
But
understand.
there's so many lines I love that are just like, or just like turns of phrases. This is an excerpt from a seance.
Mhm.
You think these silver linings were straps that keep me from falling. These days, I'd rather work out my flaws than flex on y'all.
These days,
Um,
another reference to himself.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Whoa. But like it's the truth will set you free. Am I an inmate? Like this idea of just um I think it's great because it just sets up all the themes. I love the little B Rabbit like second verse going on there where he's like pointing out his all his flaws and like utilizing his flaws as a strength and doing it successfully instead of going like, yeah, call me a file. Yeah. It's
Yikes.
the Tupac
Wearing
song.
bullet hole sweatshirts. Hopped out the rabbit hole, but I'm now really tripping, still standing here screaming, fuck the whole system. I love
Yeah.
that.
So good. And
Mhm.
again, what makes that even better are the cringe bars. Like the cringe bars are perfect for this because then it's like you can't even think that I'm bad at this because I'm gonna hit you with the next line that's like this like triple entendre mixed with all this other stuff. So when you are, it's like being the coolest guy in the room that allows themselves to be silly. You know, it sucks when the cool guy is just a cool guy. Oh, look at me. I'm so cool. But if you're the cool guy that's also fucking like the nerdiest guy, then you're the guy. You know what I mean? Like you are the guy, and he's the guy on this song.
I'm going to go with I, Myself, and Me. That's where I'm going to go because that song, that's quintessential Absol for me. The sort of hypnotic, slow, internal clock ticking, the fastidious thoughts, getting at that imposter syndrome that I was talking about. To me, that song gets closest to like thoughts that I feel like I could have, and maybe it's not to the degree and like the level of success that Absol is speaking to, but it's the idea of being pushed in directions, pulled in directions, and being in a rut, and you're aware of it, right? You're like, I gotta make some sort of change. I've gotta push myself because the all I have to do is like make one choice to stop, and then the opening is literally right here. It's a hamster wheel. It's not a hamster prison. You know what I mean? Just make a different choice
Mhm.
and get off of the hamster wheel.
Mhm.
But I think it's very easy for us to cling to what is familiar. I think it's very easy for us to not question other choices. Um, and also, he loosely grazes on writer's block a little bit. It's like when the mic cut on, I go blank. I think that also gets at the creator's journey about knowing that you have potential and knowing that you've done past work. You can point to something. It's like, I've done projects, but like when it's time to show up for the work, sometimes it's just not in you. And there may be numerous factors that are contributing to that. So yeah, this is very much a quintessential John track. I, Myself, and Me. And shout out to Doechii, because come on, man. Like you brought up the documentary, and I'm glad you did because I
Ugh.
can shout out her appearance in it.
They have
Them
such fun
just
chemistry. Like,
Yes.
oh,
so cool. But yeah, I, Myself, and Me.
Like
yeah.
somebody watched that documentary and was just like, interesting plant. Let's plant this Dochi. Like she's just what the fuck? She's so great. And like this song for me, my only kind of gripe with it, I think it's the order of things. Like I kind of wish it wasn't between Bucko and D&D. For me, like I think sonically,
Yeah.
thematically, it kind of I don't really appreciate it as much because I'm almost like ready to get into D&D. You know, like I like now that I know it's coming, I'm like I'm ready for D&D, and so I don't know where I would place it for it to be better. Maybe before Bucko, like after California Dreaming, like maybe that might make it um
That could
feel
be good.
better place for me. So yeah.
It feels a little penultimate for me. I
Mm.
feel like it goes later,
Yes, or
uh,
later. Yes.
but that's just me.
Yeah. I can see that too.
Because there's like a section of the album that's like a little more superficial. Like, Saudi Sweats, GoPro, Don Julio is like cool songs, but like D&D, cool songs, but like it's like it works as a block than just like let's think about things for a second. You know, just
Yeah,
like
it's like the
Yeah.
mainstream chunk, so to speak. It to me when I know where it's on highlights, but I'll save it. I'll save it. I'll save it. Keep going steadily.
Well, I mean, I could throw another highlight. Well, California Dream for me is a fire
they're
song.
unforgettable.
It's unforgettable. Yeah, it's that Knife Wonder on the beat.
Yeah,
I think Knife Wonder is a top five soul sampling producer like ever. And so right away when that first yeah, I don't know, you're like, wait, what? And then they both like Vince Staples, he's so good. And what's that bar like? Call me what you want, just don't call the police, cause fuck the industry. They fail to meet my needs. Like he's constantly, Absol's constantly telling you, like, I get that there could be a lane here for me to become bigger, but I also get this industry is not fucking really for me. It's not really about helping me, it's about helping them. So fuck you that you're not addressing my needs. I'm gonna do it my own self, and whatever happens, happens. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, all the features kind of like understand the assignment of like, okay, I'm on
Yes.
an Absol project. I have to bring it. I also have to bring the thematic links together. I have to like kind of like as not only have to bring my talent, I have to bring my the in that song. He talks about shoot you, leave you dead or in jail. Or I'm somewhere in between. I'm independent, but I'm signed to UMG. I'm in the trenches, but I grew walking distance from the beach. So like he's doing the themes of duality in this song, and like I'm both, um, and just like talking about California and like the why me of it all, and like Job had my daddy hook shooter like Kareem, and it's such a like a
Yes.
poignant. Um, it's like just like seems like very you always people seem to use that basketball like shooter like blank or like I'm balling like Kobe as just like a brag, but like oh yeah, this is this other side of um his lived experience is so painful and wonderful. And speaking of just I also just want to shout out the continued conversation a little bit on um I myself and me where the line about that I'm confident temporarily till reality starts to wear on me, incompetence begins to stare at me in the mirror unbearably. I love how he, like I said in 9 Mile, he uses his weaknesses as a source of strength and like sharing these weaknesses as a source of strength. Because I think to me, the fact that he feels this way about himself makes this even better. Like this album even better. Like, oh, you have to deal with that handicap and you're still this great. Like you have to
and then you
it's
can come up with that scheme, like that specific rhyme scheme about yourself, which
mhm,
I could never write.
yeah. Uh, yeah, the way he also just like want to shout out the way he massages lines to rhyme while not seeming forced. Like he rhymes arrogant with punch. Like there's no way I can't even like just reading it out loud. I couldn't even figure out how to do it. But like or like the line about the fun, just like the fun rhymes and squeeze first too is like Spike, please do the right thing. It's just like, and then you flip it of Spike Lee's do the right thing. It's just so fucking cool.
I wanted to just I there's the in California Dream at the top of the verse. He says sometimes I'll be asking God why me will never get an answer because I know it already. I'm covered in the blood. What am I, a demigod or what? Just the liquidity of that line. I loved like his laid back delivery, but then there's also the 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 attempt behind that line too, like covered in the blood, like Jesus anointed, but also covered in the blood. Like I survived this fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's layered, man.
Wow, that visual. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm. Uh, yeah, just like my highlight is Squeeze First too, is like just um, I think it's like him the hook is so good. Like it feels like a hex, but also feels like, affirmations at the same time. Don't fuck with raw meat. Like that whole like the cadence is so like it's not just the rhymes, it's the cadence and the confidence and the clarity in his voice and like how it comes through in the speakers and such. They forfeit like the wardrobe for half the week. They put a pro-choice in question, like abortion is now, and then just like these ideas of wrestling with like his place in the civil rights movement, like that, like Malcolm X, Spike, MLK, Spike Lee, all these, the lineage of like, what am I supposed to do now? Like now that we're 50 years into hip hop, now that we're doing all this stuff. And um, yeah, I just love the combine, like kind of like
Yeah.
parallel here of just like, yeah, like the message is still the same. The message is still the same. It's just like you just have to like stick together, like to like actually like overcome things, and like they'll try to like. I like the line about like, yeah, with me till our multiplicity is big enough to blow them up with one bomb, of
Why you
like,
think we always in some bond? Because they don't want us to combine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which is
Oh.
like awesome. But like I didn't see this on Genius, and this could be a stretch, but I think it could be a reference to like the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, of like this like black people gathering together, and then like the KKK putting a bomb in the church and stuff like that. Like people, they're trying to gather, and then they were blown up, like they were like killed, and it's just like this. But it's like a sign that like they're scared. That's a sign that like
Mhm.
white people are scared. That if they gather, they'll like actually overcome these white supremacy, actually overcome power structures, all that such.
Mhm.
Yeah,
In
and which is where
Crooklyn,
the affirmation of just like you cannot fuck with raw me is like the strength to carry it out.
in Crooklyn being one of his favorite movies, it's like there is some trauma involved in that film, but it's very much so a black story, black drama, but also it's not seeped in trauma. You know what I mean? And I think that that is an important thing to take away from that being his favorite movies, because it's kind of like the ability to live and the ability to grow, and it's not tied to our, I guess, traumas, so to speak. Just wanted to shout that out too.
Yeah, and that also flips into his own story too, right? Like to survive a suicide attempt and then to then from there be like, all right, now we're almost picking up life from there. And how do you actually craft that? And obviously, like anyone who hasn't attempted, it can't really speak to that experience. It's probably the most unique experience that you can't really kind of relate to, because there's such a complexity to it all. But you can relate to the idea of trying to move forward and to not always be referenced with that kind of experience as the leader of that exchange, that interaction. What was I watching? Oh, there was a presentation at work, and this guy was like, be mindful of what you use as a descriptor. And so one student was like, oh, I'm a bassist. And somebody else said, I'm a high school student. And then for the high school student, he was like, listen, like, that's great. That's who you are. But that's what everyone here is. And so you're not really standing out. But the bassist, I'm going to remember that. Like that's something that's a really tied to. So kind of similarly in this scenario, it's like, well, what can we use as a descriptor for someone who is now trying to craft a life post that trauma without using just the trauma as a descriptor?
Should we do Don Julio? Should we
Yeah.
just do Don
Yeah,
Julio? Just do some ignorance a little bit.
we should.
Uh this song is okay. Uh Liquor songs are also an Absol staple. He's got Moscato, PMP 2 or 1.5. Is it PMP 1.5 or PMP 2 with Kendrick on Overly Dedicated? Yeah, he's known for these alcohol songs, but I love a new entry into the canon. The give and take between him and Fresh is just so fun and so jovial. It's the mix. I don't know. if you how you all listen to this, but I listen to this album a lot in the car. Shout out to Osser Spatial, his test, his walking versus driving test. This one goes nuts in the car. It sounds so good. Yeah, I don't have much. It's just such a fun song. Makes me smile. I want to po up too. Just have some fun.
And I love
Yeah.
how like in the documentary, Fresh was like, "Oh yeah, I got some shit for this," and then Absol was like, "No, no, no, we're going back and forth. Like we're gonna go." And I really again made this song, which was like it's a cool song. After watching that, I'm like, no, this is like a dope song. Like it's just so good, and I love that like Don Julio 17. Don't you mean 70? Oh damn, so that's
God
on
damn,
me.
that's on me.
Yeah.
It's just like it's exactly it, right? It's like, if you're having a time with your boys and you're just like, yeah, let me just freestyle real quick, and you're like, what are you saying? Like, oh fuck, man, like I'm at that place. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a highlight just for that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
camaraderie of it, right?
Yeah.
And like this is a Professor Sky bar from his GNX review of like it takes effort for a perfectionist to be so low effort like this. It takes like effort. Like you have to create the environment, and they have to be in the right space, and then you have to like um you know Fresh is like, hey, let's do this, and you're like, no, I don't want to, I'm too sad. Just like yeah, you could like this is funny. What if that was in the documentary? Just like, like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I guess we won't do as hot. Like,
Yeah, just the ability to not overthink the process is
Yeah.
also cool. And I think I don't know if I would have enjoyed this similar to Stinley as much if I hadn't seen it. It's definitely hit, but just knowing, because you can hear at the top of the song they're kind of back and forth. Thank you,
Yes.
Fresh Lord. And like you see that moment in the documentary, and it was like, oh no, this is so transparent. What's going on here? Oh man.
Yeah. Of all the songs, that one feels like watching a documentary. It feels like you were in the studio sipping on that Don Julio, and then part of the creative process. Because, like you said, like on the actual record, you get that intro, that little kind of whatever, and that's literally the conversation that happens in the documentary. So you're like, oh shit, like I'm there, which is awesome. We all want to be in the room where it happens. We all want to be little baby rappers, like, and none of us are. But for that moment. And if you drink enough Don Julio, yeah, you. I remember one time my cousin's wedding. He got married in Florida, and we were all like after the wedding, we're in someone's hotel room, and we're just freestyling. And I'm not a rapper, but I was in a really good place, so I like freestyle, and I thought I was so good. Like I thought I was so good, like battling these like Floridan MCs. And then the next day, I'm like, what the fuck did I do? Like, it was so embarrassing.
That's hip hop,
bing bop
though.
boom bop boom bop
Yeah.
bam.
Yes. Yeah. The type of shit I'm on, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
They looking at you like, yeah, man, we don't get it.
Don't
I'm
get
just kidding.
shit,
No,
bro.
it's
Go back to
like-
Canada.
But like in the song, he's also like the just some great bars. It's like Emancipation Proclamation, Slave to the Paper Main. It's ironic that the chain hang big rocks clashing like Jay and Dame. Of just like
Yes.
there's like hip hop tropes. Like I got a big chain or like full of jewels and stuff. And it's just like I got a cool car. I got a pretty girlfriend, all that stuff. But like it's like kind of I'm so white. But like it's kind of the way of like how can you do this version of the trope in the most clever way possible? Like, how can you do it in the most like original? Like, there's gonna be some sort of like, how can you say this thing that's been said a million times in a new way? I think it's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um. Also, just shout out to the line, pavement cracked, but just wait, I rose to space. Like, there's like a theme of going beyond what the rappers of the 90s did, that's the Tupac line. And then the sky, this Biggie says the sky, what did
Sky's
Biggie
the
say?
limit.
The sky's the limit. And
yeah.
then like
Yeah.
Absol's like, no, the sky's limitless. Whoa. And then like 8 mile, 9 mile. Whoa. Eat that bitch. Just like he's saying that. Yeah, like there's like an element of just like the use of language, why hip hop is so wonderful is like it's very affirmational. It's very sort of like to change things, you have to have the imagination to change before you actually have the action. And then by saying it, you actually start to believe it. And then um, once you believe it, you can execute it. So like a lot of this is about like, and like how hip hop was that for Absol, and then Absol taking it further is really cool.
Yeah, and hip hop, I mean this is really the why people need to like give hip hop its flowers because I think of all there's it's the first genre to really allow their artists to do those multiple things all within a track. You know, you could be very braggadocious while at the same time being super vulnerable, at the same time being kind of romantic, while at the same time being the biggest asshole, while at the same time. And before hip hop, like most songs were just like one complexion. You know, they're sonically it could go different ways, but at least thematically it was very like if this is a breakup song, it's a breakup song. You know, but now it's like you're seeing more genres doing more things thematically, and I think it's because of the groundwork that hip hop laid. And so I have to give a shout out to hip hop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Bidi
Yeah.
bop bop pop.
Yeah. Let's talk about like the last couple songs in this album, like from Crazier to the Righteous Man song. Like, I feel like that's the most like lyrically sort of dense and like the culmination of all these themes and stuff. Like the piece has the AI Doughburger verse in there, which is what do y'all think of that?
I don't know if I knew that that was AI.
Yeah, it's him like, but it's like yeah, obviously the thing about AI that's so hard is like it's very anti-humanity, with the environment and like stealing someone's likeness and like violating them in that way and like not paying them, all that stuff. But like, I feel like this is I don't know these people at all, by the way, but I could imagine this having Doe Burger's blessing. I can
Right,
imagine,
right. Or at least his
yeah,
family's.
yeah, yeah.
Because based on everything that we know, they were just like so tight knit, you know, Huey and Riley combined, knowledge and nines, fusion like Trunks and Gohan, like doesn't get much closer than that.
Yeah. And then like the ties into that theme I was talking about of like combination, as Drake said. But like combination. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways. Um so dumb. But like the idea of like Doe isn't saying any of this stuff. But he said it, and that's how Doe can live on is by Absol saying it, Absol saying it to himself and then by proxy to you and to us and to maybe other people who are close to Doe Burger also, like people who cared about him, who loved him, his family members. Um, but also when he's saying, I'm glad your ass was in a cast and not a casket, that's him talking to himself too. Like that literally that's him talking to himself. That's not like there's no ghost, there's no like anything for real. It's just him talking to himself, which is like again, affirmations again. Um why you do anything is you want to like make this person you care about proud beyond yourself. And then also this song having Lupe, the encouragement of your peers, to who are on a similar journey, who are going through parallel things. And even though he's from Chicago, like Absol's from Carson, all that stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think there's no I mean, who better to have like as an industry peer at your side in a moment like this other than Lupe Fiasco, arguably one of the best rappers of all time as well. You know what I mean? And this verse is so out of this world. I don't even know what to do with it. Like I I spin sonnets off the top like I'm pinned comments. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. This is
This is
it's too creative.
Yeah, for me, this song is where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna remember saying, "I just want peace,"
Yep.
because the rest, like you said, like Lupe is the cautionary tale for Absol, right? Where it's like Lupe actually attempted to do a very, very mainstream pop rap record that uh, didn't allow his true talent to shine, and he did it on the backdrop of having albums where he made fun of that idea of dumbing it down for the audience, and then he just kind of said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna rap because I'm that good at this." And so Absol, it's like almost like having him say to Absol, I can see them having a conversation like, "Yo, you're good. You know, you're good in where you're at. I know it's not gonna maybe allow you to get the reach or the millions or whatever else, but never compromise your actual art for that pursuit, you know, the pursuit of happy me, kind of says, right? Like, or the pursuit of happiness, in Saudi Sweats. Yeah, like I'm just here out here making it happen, bitch. Yeah, like that idea of, I do want to chase something, but ultimately I should be just happy. Can we just quickly mention Righteous Man?
Yeah.
Um, Again, he starts the album with like an ode to some really great kind of hip hop battle rap stuff. And then this is for me, I wrote like sounds like real hip hop beats and rhymes, baby. Like
Yeah,
it's like
primo.
it's just that primo sound. Like this is like very New York, but with a little bit of that LA kind of sound to it, like just a little bit of it. And he lays it out. Cops and rappers, N-words and crackers, the music industry and rappers, the relationships, the duality we talked about, but that relationship, all three are the exact same relationship. And it's a psychological warfare, like he says, and it's how do you stay righteous when you are in constant battle with these forces and also constant battle with yourself because you want to be part of this industry. You want to tap into these resources. You want and sometimes need the support of law enforcement. So it's like really that challenge. And then he talks um about Dolberger, right? And how we gotta let him be a martyr for the cause. If the cycle persists, his whole premise was wrong. So that kind of ode to an album that is, or to a person, which is obviously a theme, the big theme of this whole album. I think it just seals up the project perfectly. So I
Mm,
really like Righteous Man.
yeah. And also like this album is all about paying homage to like hip hop greats. But they're, by having an album about his friend Dill Burger and like combining of him to make Soul Burger, um, you're also immortalizing someone who doesn't usually get immortalized. Like most people don't get immortalized.
Hmm.
Like no, most people beyond their immediate like family or like their friends, like they don't get to be lionized or like set in stone in this way. And like, it's like Nas and Ill Will. Like just like, oh, like Ill Will, it lives on forever now because of Illmatic. You know?
Hmm.
Like Jay and Tata.
Yeah. Yeah.
Righteous Man, like you said, Stanley goes back to that 90s kind of sound. He's using words like sucker and buster on it,
Yeah.
I like that just as like a doubling down on the 90s of it all. And Terrence
Raichu.
Martin, Raichu, Pikachu, very relevant in the 90s.
90s icon Raichu.
Also, Terrence Martin on the saxophone playing, if I'm not mistaken, a saxophone line that is present in To Pimp a Butterfly. So that's a little Easter egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much a dollar costs song.
Yeah. Yeah. At the time, and you could cut this, Andrew, but I was like freshly there. I moved there with $1 and a dream, as everyone does. And then I ended up working like at a coffee shop in Midtown, which was the worst, and like the late shift, like getting home at like 3:30 in the morning and just like listening to Ab Soul through the drudgery, you know what I mean? So there's that sort of I don't know, just that coupling, and just the grind, the true grind.
True grind. Yeah.
Low light, yeah, any low light. So GoPro probably like it has that vulture stink on it right
Yeah.
now. You know, like it's like
The vulture stink. Fair. Yeah,
that's funny.
Ty Dolla Sign is definitely associated with Ye right now, and that's not the best look overall.
yeah, especially with his like conspiracy theory like era, you know, like and stuff like. But like it's also like I don't know. I like it when like Ty sings about like you know Jesus or that makes me like
I don't know. That
ugh.
song though, going back to, it's not the most like thoughtful song at all, but it bumps.
They
Like
have good
if you-
chemistry together. Though.
it bumps. Go like green like a, you go like green like, and you got Absol go like that interplay. I
I
kind
wish
of like.
I wish he sang a little more though. I wish he went like GoPro or something. You know, like
Some
Yeah, that would've
more
saved it.
layering.
2 thumbs in the butt, whatever.
Yeah.
Guess
Yeah,
who
I wouldn't
has
say that-
guess who has two thumbs in a butt? This guy.
This guy.
Yeah. That should have been the hook. Yeah, that's my only real low light. I guess like I kind of find myself skipping the mainstream songs. You know, I want to hear about his healing. I want to hear about like besides like John Julio, which is a cool song because I watched the documentary thing. I just want to hear like him talking about healing and talking about overcoming his depression and like being an artist and stuff like that. I don't really want to hear about him like putting 2 thumbs in a butt or whatever. But you know, that's life. You know, people do that.
Yeah. For me, a low light was speaking of that, just the oral sex of it all. I feel like in the a few records we've done, there's been a lot of explicit oral sex happening on rap records. And this one's just like I forgot what track it was. It's a very quick but he's just like he does like whatever. I don't want to do it, obviously. Anyway, that was like
Like
a bit
the
of a low
audio,
light.
like
Yes.
performing it essentially.
Yes. I think I'm good. I think we all get it, and I'm good.
Yeah, well, that stuff is like, you know, we were talking about in the Biggie episode. It was like, who's that for? And it's like, I guess it's for men. You know, it's for men who just like want to go like, yeah, I dominated, all that kind of thing. It's not for to like get someone in the mood. It's not for your buddies or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just like,
No woman's gonna turn it on and be like, "Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I
Straight
don't-
observation or low lights or any straight
I was
observations?
just gonna say I don't really have like any low lights per se. Maybe like the mainstream moments aren't what I'm often looking to Absol for, but I'm okay that they exist. You know.
Yeah, also like artists, you know, if I want to hear that, I'll go to some other artists for that. You know, I don't you know, I want to hear Absol rap about Tails, you know, from Sonic. Sonic's little homie. This little homie. Little homie's funny though. Like that is funny.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stray observations.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite, just real quick, my favorite line of the whole album, and I hope I can do this properly, but it's Lisa Ray keeping it player.
Ooh, Notorious Neek.
I just love, I mean, the song is cool. But that part, that just bar, I think I played over and over again just to hear that Lisa Ray keeping it player. And like female rappers, man, like they just sound good. Just sounds so good.
And that song has that spirit of like, who's here? Oh, okay. Notorious Neek's here. You get a verse, you know, kind of adding to that, not overthinking the process and making it fun and collaborative. Kind of talked about on the All Eyes on Me episode. That verse felt very much so like that. And without that verse, I don't know where D&D might be a low light, but I appreciate Notorious Neek on there.
Yes. Yeah.
Saudi Sweats, I probably would have put it in highlights, but it needs like one of those fan edits to Eyes Wide Shut. Something about it like has this Kubrickian, evokes Kubrick to me. Just the jazz, the space in it, and and it is a braggadocious song. It's pretty surface level, but it also is eerie at the same time. And I don't know how it achieves that, but I really appreciate that song for what it is. And yeah, I want to see some Kubrick fan, like, I don't know if y'all see those NBA like stitches where there'll be like a quote and then they'll smash cut to like a song and some highlights. But I want to see a version of that with Kubrick stuff and Absol.
By the way, one of the greatest like fan edits of a thing is like 21 Savage's A Lot with like Barry Lyndon.
Yes,
like, that's one of the best.
yes.
Like it's so good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, Andrew.
Let's see. Crazier Jid's. I don't know what to say about that. It's just like it's crazier and crazier and crazier. It's just like jittery with Jid and me. Like Absol keeps up, I think, for the most part. He's like
Your
rarely
foundation
over he always like Absol always like keeps up with his feature. Like it's no one like, oh, this guy clearly like washed the shit out of me, you know, like he always keeps up with like Lupe and Jid and like maybe it's like I think it's a fair debate of which one you like better, which verse you like better from the two artists, like who he's competing with.
And I also feel like Ab likes to give the artists the stage a little bit more too, because he appreciates them for what they do. He's like, I don't, sometimes you approach the song like you want to have the best verse, but I think a lot of the time Soul wants the feature to have the better verse because he just likes them and is a fan of them.
Interesting. I didn't read it that way, because like watching the documentary at the end, and when they're freestyling, and it's like the one guy, like I forgot what bar he said, and he kind of like had that look like, oh yeah, I won this, and then Soul is kind of like, no, 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 it's not over, I have more shit, and he just kind of hopped in. And then watching the LA Leakers freestyle, there was like 10 times where the host, no, the radio personalities were like, oh, okay, like he's done. And then Soul's like, no, 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 I'm not done. I've got more shit. So it feels like for me, it's like you're getting Jay, they're getting all these guys that are such good MCs. And he's just like, all right, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go in. I'm a battle rapper. And not a battle rapper as a confrontation, but as a collaboration. And so like I can collaborate with you and meet you at the highest level. And I want that. I want you to push me higher because I want to get to that bar. And that motivation helps a lot.
Dear Jid's daughter, I'm sorry that man is your father. I don't know Jid as a kid. Like Jid kid.
Jid.
Crazier also hits a little bit harder post inauguration than it did prior to inauguration to me. Not
Wait,
that I
that?
need to, I don't know, something about just like with God, I don't want to talk about politics, but like with the kind of break things and the fallout will happen later that we're kind of experiencing, the urgency of their crazier and crazier and crazier is matching the pace in which these orders are coming out and these headlines are kind of coming out. So I was bumping that like yesterday and I was like, man, they're right.
Yeah.
I wish Doechii had a feature on that song. My I, myself, and me. Like it just feels so perfect. Like this is the subject matter she's good at doing, and like in the documentary, like she like records some songs. Why not come and finish it? Like just like do a knockout third verse. Do Nicki and Monster. Do a Nicki and Monster verse about this subject matter. Like it would have been so good. Feels like in 30 hours where like, all right, Andre 3000, come on, like 30 hours, goodbye. Just like
but that also is kind of another Absol staple. So you got I, Myself, and Me. If you go back to Herbert and listen to Wild Side, if you go back to Control System and listen to Illumination, he does these songs where they're very introspective, and then the female vocalist is just kind of there in this support role that it's like just enough. They're never and I like that as a staple. And it's not that I don't think that Dochi could do that on that song, I am just an Absol fan and I know the template, so that like
Yeah.
hits in a
There-
very special way for me.
Yeah, I like it when like they carry on their like little tradition they do, and like
Exactly.
and when they don't do it, it's like, where's that tradition that you did? You know, like
Right.
Um,
It's
Yeah.
like fanboy and stuff over
Yes.
here. So I don't refute what you're saying. I'm just kind of coming from
yeah.
my perspective. Yeah.
I mean, fuck. I like depression. I like I like taking medication. I like whatever that meme is now. That's like that they don't fit the meter or the rhyme in.
Yeah.
They just shove whatever they want in there. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else? Bucko Jr. is an awesome song. Like 4 verses of just like straight bars of just like cleverness and just like skate
An
like Tony
homage to
Hawk. You're a
Wayne.
yeah.
Yeah.
Skate like Tony Hawk, you're a novice trying Ollie, tie son up in the ring like Muhammad Ali. Like, it's so good.
Got something talent when you battling me. Something looking like molasses leaking off of my beak or something. That was such a visceral bar in that song that I'm just like, the imagery alone is just like, oh man, like being torn apart by a bird and talons and just, yeah, I love that line in that song.
My favorite line of that song is "Left Fresh Prince in your crib like Uncle Phil." Like it's just like yes, yes, I like it a lot, and he's a true disciple of Cudi.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kid Cudi, man. Kid Cudi is just, there's going to be a documentary at some point where maybe Oscar could do it, where it's like the influence of Kid Cudi.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, he should do
Right,
it.
because there's so
DM
many threads,
DM
right? That you
him.
can,
Yeah.
I will actually, or he'll listen to this and be like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna do it," because, yeah, Kid Cudi was a staple for a lot of these MCs now, because his style was so unique, and it's so inspiring, and it's so vulnerable, and so cool, and so everything. Anyway,
And I think that also is another double entendre too, because I think Absol and Schoolboy Q is definitely cited being a huge fan and studying Kid Cudi, but then there's also the slang terminology Cudi too, that's like in groupie and kind of that Carson era, not era, but locale as well. So yeah, more Absol doing what Absol does.
he's good. He's good.
Just feels very in the TDE 2004 album universe. Carries a lot of the themes that the Schoolboy Q album was carrying too. Schoolboy Q produced one of these songs, Payday, which is sick. And like just like the scream in that song is so cool. But like what I talked about in that episode, like what's the impact of slavery in this country? It's like, trying to the hamster wheel of it all, like trying to putting like chasing after things that had the names of things from that era of just like chains and like whips and all that stuff. I think that's just like not a fully developed point, but just like it's in here too.
Yeah, these are the guys you want to like hang out and have real deep conversations with, and like literally a second after just do the dumbest shit possible. It's like, wow, like we're really gonna
Yeah.
solve racism finally. Let's go like jump off a mountain without your snowshoes on, and it's minus 20-degree weather, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Like something just really silly. It's great. It's great that we get access to that in
Yeah.
2025.
The little documentary of like in 2012, like the TDE documentary where like they just like follow Schoolboy Q around and Kendrick is just like silent. He's just like
Yeah.
making silly faces.
Make it, yeah, he'll crack like some silly jokes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, like when we do the Kendrick stuff. But yeah, Kendrick, it's so funny he became the guy because he just watching that, like he was kind of like the background guy, like just kind of I guess observing, taking notes. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Let's go with the final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this movie album out of 10 with a fun metric at the end. Who would like to go first?
I'll get it out of the way, and in that way we can get to John as quickly as
Get out of the
possible.
way.
It's great. It's a really great.
Get out the way.
hip hop album. I'm gonna give this. Wait, let me think real quick. I want my ratings to be legit. Maybe a 9, not a 10, certainly not a 7. I'm gonna give it an 8 because 8 is like heaven. Shit. 8 out of 10.
Oh.
Love it.
Bars, bars,
Oh.
bars. I'm back in Florida, that wedding. Bars, bars, bars.
I did Jim from The Office.
I
Anyways.
saw it. I saw it. And they'll see it too. Make sure you watch this on YouTube. You can see what Andrew did.
Yeah, I think this is really good. I'll give it 8 Raichus out of 10. 90s icon Raichu. Yeah, I think it's I like
You're
that.
so proud. You're so proud of yourself for that one.
Raichu's not even like the most popular, like or even the most Pikachu. Like no one cares.
Side
Like,
character.
like Absol, a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I think this is great. I think this is a great it certainly made me want to explore more of his stuff. Like I think that it's worth doing more episodes on him every so often, like maybe once a year or whatever. But yeah, this is great. This is good stuff. Like it certainly like quelled any of the doubts I had about him of like is he just like fake deep? Is he like, just lyrical miracle? Like does he not have it, to carry? And I also never heard a full project of him, so I didn't know if he was capable of like making full projects that I wanted to listen to all the way. But like, yeah, I'll totally listen to this all the way. I'll probably listen to this like after this, after this recording. Just great songs. Um, I like that it's a continuation of the door that Kendrick left cracked open for folks, of like not just like quality raps, but also just like exploring your own internal life, exploring cycles of trauma, trying to heal from that, like trying to heal from your depression and like being a great artist, making a great impact on people. Um, yeah, cool concept. I think it's like a good, I come out of this like feeling like he made a great loving tribute to his friend, his long time friend, and like uh, expressing that loss and expressing that grief while also celebrating him, um, and carrying the good parts of it with him. So yeah, I'll give it a 8 Raichus out of 10. 90s icon.
That leaves me. Yeah, Absol, as I mentioned at the top and throughout, one of my favorite rappers. Stenley was asking me on the break, would I put Absol as number one? I kind of acknowledge that he is not, I don't think he would be everyone's number one, but for what he offers for me, I would probably put him up there. He could toggle in and out with some other rappers, but whenever I'm in a Absol groove, he's number one for me. Just like his persona as a rapper, I think he is larger than life. We didn't even get into his aesthetics, like the crazy hair and the sunglasses, and I think that's just really dope and cool. And he kind of has a casual approach. He, as a rapper, infuses intellect with comedy, but also just like that artist struggle, man. I really kind of latch on there because it's very real. Soul Burger is him kind of shirking the intellect, kind of getting back to fundamentals a little bit, not really trying to be too heady, even though that's not him. He can't fully shed that. It's still there, but great homage to Dough Burger. I can't wait for more. I urge everyone to go backwards, listen to some Ab-Soul, follow his trajectory, kind of see there's like a really, really dark period. I think that Herbert and Soul Burger is him finding some light, and some newness for his career. I'm to evoke the Doughboys. I'm going to be in the hand holding club with Stanley and Andrew, and I'm going to give Soul Burger an 8.
Wow.
An 8 nicknames out of 10.
Wow.
This is the first time ever that we've all had the same.
Maybe. I
I
imagine
can't
that might
remember.
be true. Yeah, I gave Childish Gambino 10. None of you agree with me. All right, so no, this is great. This is a fantastic recording. Thank you so much, John, for sharing so earnestly and your expertise and your experiences and stuff. And we love having you on. We love chopping up with my two pals here.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything y'all like to plug, anything that's out there for you that you want to shout out though. Or also like what about other Absol projects you think people should check out if they like this one and want to check out a new one?
Oh, okay. So I think if you like this one, Herbert is going to be the best kind of companion album to this. If you want to get into where he's a little bit darker, kind of in that conspiracy theory lane that Andrew talked about, that's more your control system and more your do what thou wilt. But prior to those, you've got long-term mentality and the long-term mixtapes ahead of that, which is a little bit more of that scrappy early TDE, just hungry rapper phase. So you've got a few entry points. But if you like Soul Burger, I think the immediate turn is to Herbert. So yeah, I would check that out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I like to plug the cheeseburger song from VeggieTales. That's good.
Oh, and we didn't mention Kel. Welcome to Soul Burger, home of the Soul
Yeah,
Burger.
you got a little poster on your thing, right on your background.
Right there.
Is Keenan not on the picture? Like
He's on there. Let's
he's
see
just
if
like
I
in
can.
the back. Yeah. Oh
He's-
wow.
He's
Okay.
down there.
Fun.
And there's that old man. If y'all remember that old man.
I never seen that show. I saw the movie. I saw a clip of the movie once, and like Linda Cardellini was like making. I was like, I'm at the time. So, anyways, like I cut that out. No one should know that I had a crush on Linda Cardellini. Anyways, like
I think that's a universal thing.
I know. Just kidding. Yeah, you can follow the show at IBMTLTT on all platforms. Follow the show on YouTube. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We should also like shove that in earlier in the show. By the way, we should go make sure to like and subscribe. Like whatever, like
Right from the get-go,
in like the first like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah. Because like Derpy sings like the video and like it works. Like it works for him, and he's very popular. He's a Twitch affiliate now. So yeah, like you could follow the show at IBMT me at Andrew Ambrose Lee, John at John Butts here, Stanley at Snap a Stan. Check out TDE's stuff. Kendrick is a pretty interesting fella too. Like we're gonna cover him next week. GNX with Christina and Raquel. That was really exciting. And before we probably take a little break, but John, any final sentiments you want to shout out though?
Absolutely not.
Okay, everybody have a good night. Wait, no, that's not what I say. Have
Nope.
a good day. Click.
Have a good night.
The only time we're recording in the morning.
I
Have
know,
a good
honestly.
night.